Now, the Nobel Peace Prize is one of the 5 Nobel Prizes established by the will of Swedish industrialist, inventor and armaments manufacturer Alfred Nobel. And right here now in studio, we have a Nobel Peace Prize medal. And it's been minded by Justin Robinson, who's an historian with Samlerhuset. How do you pronounce it? Samlerhuset Group. And they're the people who make the medals. And this is the same medal, the same design as would have been made the very first time.
Yes, it hasn't changed. It's been the same design from 1901 when the medal was introduced, and it's been designed actually by a Norwegian sculptor called Gustav Vigler.
Right.
And so the design, the front and the back hasn't changed at all in that time.
Now, Alfred Nobel, an amazing person, right? And the story of how he set up, I suppose, the foundation.
Yes,
as over the Nobel Prizes is very interesting. Will you tell us that?
Of course I can. Yes, sure. Well, Alfred Nobel's greatest invention was dynamite. He also invented gelignite as well, and had a huge number, I think over 350 patented designs with his inventions.
A lot of them were weapons and stuff.
Primarily so, yes, that's right. Yes, all kinds of devices, but also used in the building industry as well, but very sort of destructive sort of armaments. And he actually became a hugely wealthy man, had factories all over the world. In 1888, he actually got to read his own obituary. His brother died tragically, and a French newspaper actually published Alfred Nobel's obituary. So he actually got to pick up the newspaper and read what people were going to say about him.
Mistake. Yeah.
And the actual headline read, "The Merchant of Death is Dead." And it went on to say, Dr. Alfred Nobel, who became rich by finding ways to kill more people faster than ever before, died yesterday. And apparently he was so upset and horrified because he realized that this is what his legacy was going to be, that this is why he instructed in his will to create these prizes for medicine, for physics, for chemistry, for literature, his great passions for science, but also a special medal for peace as well. And that came about as a consequence of him accidentally reading his obituary and discovering what people were going to think of his legacy.
Isn't that a mad thing? I imagine there are people all over the country, Justin, going, I wonder what my obituary would say.
Well, that's right. That's right. A few of us get to read it. I think Mark Twain...
I prefer if I didn't get to read it. Thank you very much.
Well, Mark Twain once reported, he read his own obituary and he wrote a letter to the newspaper and said, reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated. So I think that's right. But in this instance, it worked very well. I mean, Nobel he wasn't married, he didn't have any children, so he decided he would leave his entire considerable fortune to setting up these prizes.
And that was 31 million back in the day.
It was a huge amount of money.
Yes,
huge amount of money. And
what were his instructions in his will?
Yeah, well, he decided that, as I said, he wanted a fund that would be set aside for the awarding of the annual prizes. And in his will, he said it would go to those who, during the preceding year, shall have conferred the greatest benefit on mankind. So he was thinking very much about peace. He was thinking very much about, obviously, all of the sciences as well, medicine, chemistry, as I said, and...
Here's the other, and loads of interesting things. Before we get to we've talked about the Irish connections, obviously, over the years, but Sweden and Norway.
Yes.
So some of them are given out in Sweden, some of them in Norway. Explain that to me.
Sure. Okay. Well, this was again in his will. This was exactly how he'd set it out. So that the literature prize and the prizes for physics, chemistry, and medicine, they are actually awarded by the government of Sweden, so they are given out in Sweden. It's the Peace Prize that is actually struck in Norway, and it's actually bestowed. And the Norwegian government every year they elect a panel of 5 people. They're completely independent and non-political. And they sift through all of the nominations that have been received for the recipients for the Peace Prize that year, and they make the final selection. So Norway have always done that. Norway have always had that.
So when he was alive, Sweden and Norway were in a union of sorts.
They were indeed, that's right. But he wanted it specifically. He wanted the Peace Prize to be dealt with by Norway, and that's really where our connection comes from. Because, as you said at the start, the Samlerhuset Group actually owns the Mint of Norway, and we also own the Dublin Mint Office.
Do you?
And so it was as a result that we were exhibiting at the Dublin Mint Office. Were exhibiting at the RDE at the weekend at the International Coin Fair.
Yeah.
And so it's obviously the sister company, and so Norway, the Mint of Norway, agreed to loan the medal to them for the duration of the weekend. So it was great.
Now, where will this medal end up, or is this a display model, as they'd say?
No, this is
DID electrical.
Well, when a recipient receives the Nobel Peace Prize, we engrave their name and the year on the side of the medal on the rim.
Okay.
So that then obviously becomes their medal. Now, this one is the only one outside of Norway that doesn't have an inscription, because it hasn't yet been awarded.
What's it made from? I've put on gloves,
yes,
so I can pick it out of its box. So
yes,
to speak.
well, it's obviously made from gold, and since 2015, Sam Lahussid have actually been striking the medal in Fairmined gold. And Fairmined gold is gold that's been sourced from small-scale mining operations under the Fairmined standard. And the Fairmined, it's a bit like fair trade coffee. They work to improve the quality of life for miners and their families by investing in their sort of health and safety in communities. So it's a very noble thing to do. And as I said, the Fairmined label has been around for a few years now, and Sam Lahussid has been championing that in the industry, because we want more and more people who buy gold and silver coins and medals to actually be investing in the Fairmined label.
It's a beautiful piece because it looks old.
Yes, well, that's right. Well, the design, as I said, from 1901, from Gustav Vigeland, who was the Norwegian sculptor.
And is there a different design for each of the areas?
Yes, they do. Yes, so the other medals will all have slightly differing designs.
Okay, but will one side has his? I presume that's him, Alfred.
Yes,
Nobel.
that's right. That's right.
him on one side, and then on the inscription on the other will change depending on whether it's peace medicine.
That's right. So for the Peace Prize, the medal actually has a very nice sort of inscription on it. I'm not going to even attempt the Latin inscription, but it translates as "for peace and fraternity among people," and so it's a design. It's symbolic of peace and people coming together in peace.
So there are a number of these in Ireland, on the island of Ireland.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, well, over the years, it's the Peace Prize has been awarded to 5 Irish people, 4 from Northern Ireland, 1 from the Republic of Ireland. So in 1974, Sean McBride, the president of the International Peace Bureau, won. And then 2 years later, the prize was awarded to Betty Williams and Mairead Maguire, founders of the Northern Ireland Peace Movement. Later, I think, renamed the Community of Peace People. And then a little bit later again, in 1998, John Hume and David Trimble both won the prize together for their efforts to find a peaceful solution to the conflict in Northern Ireland and for the Good Friday Agreement. So Ireland has a very good and track record of winning the Peace Prize.
And they're in stellar company.
They really
just
are.
A few
yes.
So 1901 was the first, was it?
So the first award went in
2020, and they weren't given out during the World Wars.
Yeah, they're not awarded every year.
Oh, are they not? Right.
So there was a period during the First World War and in the Second World War where they weren't awarded. They also weren't. There've also been a few key dates where the medal hasn't been awarded. So, for example, in 1948, it was widely believed that Mahatma Gandhi would win the Nobel Peace Prize, but unfortunately he was assassinated.
Right.
And because the medal can't be awarded posthumously, they chose not to actually give it out that year.
Right.
So, obviously in honour of Mahatma Gandhi.
And what way does it work, Justin, or do you know much about this? Is there a shortlist every year?
Yeah, so what happens is a list of nominations is received every year. They can come from governments, from the United Nations, and also previous recipients as well can also submit recommendations. And then a panel of 5 people in Norway will sit down and they will spend the whole year sifting through all of the nominations to decide who will actually receive it. And it's awarded in December. It's actually awarded on the anniversary of Alfred Nobel's death. So they have a whole year then to make their decision of who's going to be.
Yeah, and the people who've received it are standout names from history, as you would expect.
I mean, some of the great sort of inspirational, influential people of the 20th and 21st century. And you have people like Dr. Martin Luther King, for example, in 1964, Archbishop Desmond Tutu in South Africa in 84, Mother Teresa won it in 1979, the Dalai Lama, Nelson Mandela in 1993, and also Barack Obama in 2009 as well. And in 2014, Malala Yousafzai became the youngest recipient of the Peace Prize. She was only 17 when she actually received it.
Well deserved.
So we've had some fantastic company, absolutely.
Any controversy around it over the years?
Yes. I mean, the Nobel Prize obviously has had critics. I mean, there were some people who were very critical when Barack Obama received it, because I think he'd only been president for about 20 days, I think, think, or so before the award. But no, I mean, the Nobel Peace Prize has had its critics over the years, and I think it's people will recognise. I think they can see the motive behind the prize, which is always to remind us that it's better to strive for peace and understanding than to wage war. And the Norwegian Nobel Committee, their determination to recognise and honour the achievements of individuals and groups who've worked to make this world a better place, I think, and embrace our shared humanity. I think that can only be a good thing. So, I mean, there have been some controversial decisions. In 1935, for example, the award actually went to an anti-Nazi journalist who was actually in prison in Germany at the time. He was a political prisoner. His name was Karl von Ossietzky, and Adolf Hitler apparently was absolutely furious that he had been awarded the Peace Prize and forbade any German citizens to actually receive any Nobel Prizes at all for the next decade. Okay. So they'd certainly had its fair share of critics over the years.
This is a bit vulgar, but has it ever gone up on the open market for sale?
Once.
Right.
That's right, yes.
Okay.
So there was the recipient in 1935, Carlos Lamas from Argentina, who was the president of the League of Nations and a mediator in a conflict between Paraguay and Bolivia. And his family put the medal up for auction in New York about 4 or 5 years ago, and it fetched $1 million.
Whoa!
So yes, absolutely.
What I'm holding in my hand is worth considerably less because there's no inscription.
At the moment, there's no inscription on it. I mean, you're holding almost 1/4 kilogram of solid gold in your hands right now.
At market value, what's that?
Well, I mean, certainly with Fairmine gold, you're looking for sort of about 15,000 euros, something like 16,000 euro. But its value obviously comes in the fact that it is the Nobel Prize.
Of course,
it's been struck, as I said, in the Mint of Norway, and it is waiting to be for its next recipient to go out to that. So the 2020 winner will obviously be receiving that.
And when does that happen?
And that will be, as I said, it's December the 10th. It's the anniversary of Alfred Nobel's death, and that ceremony will take place in Oslo. And so the recipient goes to Oslo in the presence of King Harald, the King of Norway, and they actually give a lecture. And in return for giving that lecture, they obviously receive the medal. Yes. They also receive a very nice diploma and a large cheque as well, which I'm sure is very
how was that viewed, that man's family put the medal up for auction?
Well, it's quite funny, actually. I mean, I don't know much about that particular one. There have been other families who have suggested over the years that they may be interested in selling. Who knows? There might be some others coming up. But as you say, I mean, if the recipient is particularly well known, obviously, I imagine they could fetch considerably more than the $1 million that the last one had.
Finally, what about the future as opposed to the history of the mint business as we approach a cashless society, Justin?
Well, now that's about opening up a huge can of worms. But I mean, at the Dublin Mint Office, I mean, where the passion sort of within the Sam Lahouzic Group and for the Dublin Mint Office is to put history into the hands of our collectors, and certainly commemorative coins have been around for centuries. I mean, in fact, one of the earliest coin collectors that we know was Caesar Augustus,
and of course,
2,000 years ago.
As of course, if we become a cashless society, they'll be more sought after.
There will always be a need for commemorative coins and medals.
Justin Robinson, thank you very much.
Hey, you're very welcome. Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Peace Prize medal, thank you for coming into the studio. That's it from us. Mary Wilson is on the way. We are back tomorrow at 3:00. Enjoy the rest of your Monday evening.